So our first ghost car that we're looking at today is a 1930 Chevrolet sedan. And I love this car. I was drawn to it by the color and then by the ghost. And if you look at the back of the vehicle, sitting in the back seat, because it's a four-door, you can see her image just sitting there properly with her gloves and her handkerchief in her hand, with her ankles crossed in the back. I can just feel that. And her energy has such a great style about it, but she's so excited. And I think that's really why her energy got stuck in this vehicle, is because she was so excited to be riding in the car and just kind of sitting there and just kind of felt like the queen of the world. She is excited like nobody's business, and that's why her energy got stuck. Our next car is a replica of the Batmobile, and if you remember some of the early shows, this is kind of what the Batmobile looked like. But one of the things that's really interesting is the car beneath it actually has the ghost attached to it, not the Batmobile. The Batmobile, when it was ever driven, had like a lot of people looking at it. They never really went super fast. It was kind of more like, look at me kind of car. But the car underneath has a lot of damage, and it has a lot of damage more on the left side than the right. And the left side looks like it hit a vehicle or a truck, and then it hit a sidewalk and kind of went up on the sidewalk several times. I also feel like this one is connected to someone who drank a lot of alcohol when they were driving the car, because the car sometimes has that alcoholic kind of drive to it, kind of weaving in and out of the lane back and forth, and doesn't always drive straight. I know some of that is from the vehicle damage prior, but some of it's from the energy of the first couple of owners. Next we're looking at is a golf cart body, and then it has the Flintstone pedalmobile kind of over the top of it, and it's so cute and adorable. But I will tell you that the golf cart actually has a lot of damage in it, and it had flipped over several times. There is a young man who was driving, I want to say probably age 13 or 14, and when the vehicle flipped over, he was driving it and kind of like angry and upset, and that's what kind of caught the energy to be stuck in the vehicle. And he broke his arm. He broke his left arm, kind of between the elbow and the wrist, and so that energy stuck in there, and I really feel like he was having a very bad day on top of having a lot of arguments with his parents. Next we're looking at is the Mystery Machine, the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine. And it is not completely 100% accurate. There's a lot of parts that they put on from other vehicles to kind of remake this, to kind of give the flare, the fenders, all of that kind of stuff, so that it's very highly modified underneath. But the engine they put in there is not from this make and model, so it drives a lot faster. But I will tell you that engine has had a lot of vehicle fires in it, and its first owner of that engine was killed in the car accident, and the engine caught on fire, but it didn't burn completely. And so they were able to kind of remodify it, and then they put it into this vehicle much later on. And that's where it keeps that energy from the ghost. And you can see him sitting kind of in the driver's seat. He is pushed all the way back because that's the way he was prior to the accident. He could see whatever he was about to hit coming at him, and so he pushed himself way back in the seat to kind of get as far away from it as possible. This is a 1940s Willys Jeep, and this one saw combat, and I do believe that this is one that a lot of people were driven around in, and I would say more like people that higher up in rank in World War II, kind of their uniforms look like that, because the guy who's sitting in the back seat actually kind of turns and gives me his thumbs up, and he's got, it looks like either colonel or major leaves on his epaulets, And the person who is driving the vehicle when the car flips over is a sergeant. I can tell that by the insignia. And but this model was rebuilt several times, and there had a lot of accidents, of course, bangs and boops and all kinds of stuff from being in the military, but it was actually used as a very dignitary kind of car to drive, like I said, upper military people around. From the next view, you can see through the front, so this is a better view to see the sergeant who's driving. He is very cute, very good looking, and has a great smile, but he doesn't see what's about to happen. He doesn't see the explosion that's about to happen off to his right, or sorry, off to his left, and so he doesn't see that at all until it's too late. It's kind of like he passes it, it catches his eye, and then the explosion happens. This one is a 1966 GTO, and this car, not only has it been modified several times, this has damage. If you look on the far, as you face it on your right hand side, so on the driver's side, it actually hit someone who was walking, a pedestrian who was walking across the street. This vehicle has a lot of damage underneath the hood that they had to take care of. I do feel like it's an older gentleman that they hit, and he's kind of a big, heavy-set kind of guy. He wasn't necessarily killed in the accident, but the driver kind of got scared to death over it, and just afraid he had hurt the gentleman or killed him. And so that's kind of the interesting part about it, is that the energy stayed from this accident because of the driver. The passenger was okay, but the person they hit, and he was okay. He did go to the hospital and was okay, but it's one of those, there's a lot of damage. And on that driver's side, front side, now a completely different accident that kind of looks like it happened probably mid to late 80s, on the passenger side, back right, and there was someone sitting in the car, and the car was T-boned on that side in that door area, and but there was someone sitting in that, and that's why that energy ended up staying. This is a 1969 or 68 Camaro, and this one also has had a lot of damage to it. Kind of an interesting one is that there is a lot of damage on the side that we're looking at. I do feel like it hit a tree at some point, or it could have been a pole, but it's very tall and thin, and that energy stayed because of the driver being so freaked out about having the accident. Kind of like, I'm terrified to call my dad and tell him what happened. I also feel like he's just like beside himself. Even as we're talking about it, I can feel like him just panicking over it, and his sheer anxiety and stress over kind of having to tell his dad that he wrecked his Camaro again. This one is actually not a real Herbie car. It is a replica, but very, very cute. And this one has had a lot of accidents. The engine that they used in this one is not necessarily for a car. They did a lot of modifications, but it came off a motorcycle. And the motorcycle was actually in pristine condition when they put the motor in there. But the driver passed away in an accident. So that engine kind of stays, and because where the engine is in the very, very back of it, you can kind of see his energy in and around the vehicle, not necessarily inside, but around the vehicle, or in the close proximity around it. So that's a very interesting one. This one is a 1947 Ford. This one is very interesting because there's like 7 different accidents that happened to this vehicle over time. Now, of course, it's much older, but I will say part of it has messed up the frame on the driver's side, furthest away from the picture. There is damage on the passenger side, right as the door would open, kind of right where those hinges are. And the other part is really interesting, is there is a cutest little lady in the background. She's probably, I don't want to say it too loud, but probably in her late 80s, and she just feels like a princess in the back of this vehicle, kind of driving down the road, and just really enjoyed being part of what's going on. This one, you can even read it on the stickers on the front of it. This is a 1947 Ford convertible. This one has been highly modified many times over its life and had lots of restoration. So there's a lot of cussing around the front part of it because of all the modifications that, like, someone did modifications and they didn't do them correctly, and then they've had to refix them or redo them or retake care of things. So there's a lot of cussing in that area. But I will say that one of the things that happened to this vehicle is that it was hit on the driver's side back quarter panel, and it flipped the car, and whoever was sitting in the back passenger side actually was flipped out. It looks like a younger female, probably anywhere from 11 to 13 years of age, has her hair in ponytails, light brown hair, but you can every once in a while see her kind of move her energy up and out of the vehicle. This is a 1963 GTO. This one has been wrecked many times and had many things rebuilt on the engine. And interesting enough, a lot of the accidents really didn't happen in the front, they happened in the back. So that back passenger quarter panel that you can see has been rebuilt probably 8 or 9 times. And there has been a lot of accidents where something would go wrong with the electrical or the engine, and then the car would like lose power, and then they would get hit from behind, and it happened many times. So that was just one of those kind of like interesting energies, because this car actually goes really fast, but every once in a while it'll have a short out, and the short out comes from someone committed suicide in this vehicle a long time ago. I would say probably late 60s, early 70s, and you can see him driving the vehicle. He's very happy about it, and then all of a sudden you can see him get really sad, and I just feel like he fought depression many times, and the car brought him a lot of enjoyment, and that's why he committed suicide in the vehicle. The second image you can see much easier. You can see him a little bit more clear. But I can tell you that he had a lot of deep sadness and a deep craving to kind of make a difference in his world, although he just didn't know what to do or how to do it. I thank you for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.